So we've had episodes focusing on each member of the family and Lunella. Adria's gotta be next, right? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Season 2, Episode 18 of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And yeah, as I said in the cold open, all these episodes since we've come back have pretty much been focusing on a different family member and their connection with Lunella. And I say like Adria's got to be next, but technically she's already had an episode regarding this. Because we had episode 15, which was Adria and Lunella. Episode 16 was James Jr. and Lunella. Episode 17 was really James Sr. and the grandmother. It wasn't really about his relationship with Lunella, but more his, wife. Though the connection with and working with Lunella was still there. Now, we could have an episode, I guess, with Lunella and her grandmother, but we've already kind of had plenty of that. We've had that connection explored a lot more because, she was the original Moon Girl and they've already had a connection with her knowing and all. So that's already been explored a lot. It doesn't really need to be gone into. So unless we started moving out of the family and explored Lunella's relationship with, I don't know, Casey or someone, we really should be getting back to the stuff with Adria. Because each of these episodes has also touched on Adria. Each of them have also touched on how her and Lunella have become super distant. And that's clearly the main theme going on with this part of the season so far. But the problem is that there's not too many of these episodes left. It's like, after a certain point, we have to realize we have to kind of get back to the plot. Because there's 24 episodes in total? And we have to get back to main plot stuff. We have to get back to Lunella, doing hero work without having to worry about this. The family drama is important. This is a series that definitely gives a huge focus to family, gives a huge focus to the connections in general that we make in our lives, and how those connections, whether being family, friends, or just, the neighborhood you grow up in, it can make a big deal and influence your life. That's very important to the core of the show. But I believe I said this last time as well. This is also a superhero show. It just is. And even though we're getting, technically some superhero action in these episodes, it's taking the back seat. And we need to get back to this stuff. Because this is going to be the final set of episodes. At this point, if we don't get back to it, it's going to be a very disappointing, ending to this series. This, for a series that, another one that Disney has canceled, we need this one to at least end on a high note, like others have, mind you. But we need this to end well so that the Disney executives hopefully start to get it. Now, this series has a fan base, but unfortunately it's not as big as something like Owl House was. So those of us who are in it need to be vocal, and if this finale is good enough, we need to acknowledge that and basically tell Disney that they are fucked up and wrong for canceling this. mind you, these episodes are already all out. Like, Disney batch releases them because I don't know, they had no faith in this show or whatnot. But no matter what the cause, that also caused this series to, fail. That it was just a horrible decision that just fucked up this show completely. But if we're loud enough, hopefully Disney could take notice. It's a long shot considering they really haven't taken notice before, and they should have. But it's a possibility that we have to take. We have to keep trying to get it through their heads that these are the kinds of shows we want. And that canceling them is, fucking up people's faith in them. In Disney as a whole. Of course, Disney has become weirdly, like, I wouldn't say bad, because there's a lot of good content coming from them still. But the company, and especially centering around animation, has become weirdly disinterested, I guess is a way to put it, in their own product. They are terrible at advertising recent products, whether it be movies or shows or etc. They are actively making moves that are harming the movies and shows and stuff being, seen, harming their viewership. They're not getting the numbers that they should be. They're not getting the attention and interest that they should be. It's been what, a couple years since Disney has won like a best animated picture Oscar. And mind you, I don't put much faith into the Oscars myself, but that's a big deal for companies. They take that stuff seriously, and Disney has been kind of like the kings of winning the best animated picture Oscar. But it's like they're starting to fall behind, and not because the movies are bad, but because other movies are doing better, are getting better advertising, are just have better word of mouth. Disney is not advertising their movies as well. They're not putting as much effort into them. They don't seem to care. And it's confusing as hell, because it's like, it's literally what their company is built on. So it's like, how are you fucking up this badly? I just don't understand. But they are fucking up. And this series is just another example of that. They didn't advertise this properly. They stuck it on the app, I think it was, and released all the episodes in these batches instead of releasing them week by week. It's like they did everything in their power to fuck over this show. And it's not the first show they've done this with. It's even wilder because this is not just one of their animated properties. It's also a Marvel property. They had two different demographics that they could have appealed to with this. And they just fucked it up so badly. So I really hope that the crew who worked on this made sure to like put every bit of effort into these final episodes as possible. Again, I like this, I like and I find important the character stuff, the family stuff, etc. But honestly, like, these last episodes, episodes 16 and 17, were not very good. They weren't like bad or terrible or anything. They just weren't that great. They were weak compared to other episodes of the show. Episode 15, the first one back, was fantastic. But 16 and 17 just didn't have the same energy, the same like oomph to them. And they aren't, but they feel like filler. Because it's basically just like we're going to create a family dynamic issue that wasn't there before and really doesn't have a reason to be there now, and just resolve it with very little effort. That's why I like the dynamic issue with Adria, because it's not being resolved super quickly. It's lasting a bit, and that's fine. I do agree that it does need to be resolved before the end of the season, but it's at least lasting some time to make it matter. These other ones are just like, they're being thrown in just because of the Adria one. It's like, we're going to have this Adria dynamic issue, so we have to do the same thing with everyone else. It's like, no, you really don't. The wildest thing is that the grandparents already had an issue resolved with this. With James Sr., like a little like irritated and distrustful over Mimi because of finding out she had this entire life she kept secret from him. But then that was resolved. But then they do a completely different, unrelated uh, uh, issue between them that had no relevance to anything. It's like, I mean, I guess it was kind of relevant. I mean, he's like worried that he's not smart enough for her now. But that had never been an issue in like all the decades they've been together. It's just like again, it's a forced issue that had no business existing. The episodes themselves were not that bad. They were not like terrible, but they weren't that good either. When you have to force issues just to continue with this entire idea of like family dynamic shifts, it doesn't need to be done. Just let the issues with Lunella and Adria be the focus, while showcasing some other great stuff, some other great character stuff, some other great action stuff. There's a lot of great ideas in these, like some of the old villains teaming up to work together. I love that idea. A Sinister Six reference, absolutely. But they didn't like give it enough focus or make it like valid. It was like a waste of time, and let's be honest, they weren't even that intimidating. Um, because honestly, that plot line should not have been in episode 15. It really shouldn't have, because it took away from some of the best parts of episode 15. And that should have honestly just had its own episode in general to focus on. But enough of this complaining, because I could do this all day. But we're just going to move on. We're going to see this episode and hope for the best. Let's hope things get resolved, or at least, we don't get any more forced issues to come about, because I'm kind of getting tired of that. But let's see how it goes. So, yeah. Let's get into the reaction. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. it's kind of funny. Like sometimes this happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when I mention something in the opening, in the pre-thoughts, it sometimes actually comes to pass. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it doesn't, but I've also been talking about this like every episode since this started, pretty much. To be fair, so eventually it had to come to pass. But um, we finally got the resolution to this, and it could have happened like an episode sooner, maybe, but I think it's also just because the last couple episodes I didn't really like as much, is why I'm thinking that. Either way, this episode, like, even outside of just getting the resolution to Lou and Adria's distance between them and everything, we also get a very strong, poignant episode about a girl having her first period. A very strong episode about just family ties in general. And about change of any kind, about growing and changing and learning to accept things that scare you, as long as they're, good things to accept still. Because some things that scare you, some things that are hard to accept, are that way for a reason, to be fair. But sometimes, like, you're just afraid of change, and it's not bad change, it's just something that you're concerned about for one reason or another, and it's hard to accept because of that. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. Also, this episode had phenomenal expressions. I've talked about this plenty of times in the past, but when it comes to animation, I'm a huge fan of expressive visuals, to where it's like characters are able, because it's animation instead of live action, they're able to showcase facial expressions in a way that just is not possible in live action. They're able to show depth and emotion and just feelings, again, in very unique ways that, unfortunately, unless you're fucking Jim Carrey, and I mean unless you are Jim Carrey, not you're, having sex with Jim. I should. I don't know why I'm taking the time to specify that. I'm sure you knew what I was talking about. Unless you're Jim Carrey, you're not gonna have that, like, emotive of a face. Even the most, like, emotive actors out there can only do so much. Jim Carrey is like a weird exception to that, but that's not common. That's an exception. With animation, though, you can get across a lot more in a lot more creative ways. You can get across the same emotion in so many different so many different ways, so many different manners, um, without, like, I'm not great at wording things. You can get across the same emotion in so many different ways, expressions, facial animations, etc., and have them all stand out and be perfectly valid. Whether it's happiness, anger, sorrow, and you can get across the depths of those emotions too, because you can be sorrowful for multiple different reasons and in multiple different ways. You can be angry in multiple different ways. And animation is just able to express that a lot better. And sometimes you could just have fun with it. There are quite a few expressions in this that are just kind of goofy and fun, like the surprised Pikachu face on Decoy. And then you had Adria make a couple really wacky faces in this, where it's like she kind of goes like, there's the two dot eyes and a weird mouth and everything, which is kind of shown again in the ending, but you can't see the eyes because of the glasses she's wearing. Um, you see Lunella make some faces like that, like the like horrified face where it's like the features shrink and it's just like this. I don't know how to describe that. You know the moment I'm talking about, where she makes that really like horrified, like freaked face, and it's just this. It's so wild looking. It's so like expressive. And that's the kind of shit I love. And that's the kind of shit I want to see more of. Like just doing the puppet thing in this series that they've now made a recurring thing for some reason. It's like that's okay, but I like these other kinds of expressions better. The entire puppet thing is more like a gag, while these expressions add a lot more depth to the characters' emotions and feelings at the time. Um, I also think that an episode like this, focusing on Lunella having her first period and everything, is a great episode to have these two resolve their differences because of the theme of change and everything, of kind of growing up and accepting things are going to be a little different now, etc., etc. It allows it also allows, Lunella and Adria to connect with something. They were having such trouble connecting and like becoming close anymore. So this allowed both of them to find some common ground that they could, relate with each other, allowing them to come back together and allowing this, mother daughter day to happen. Now, this episode didn't focus as heavily on the period part as like other things have. Like turning red, like was basically a big metaphor for that. The entire thing pretty much. um but then you had like the episode of Ghost of Milo McGee, which did also focus on it a little bit more than this. And mind you, it's like I don't mind that they didn't, because they still made a point of it and made it so that kids who watch this will still be able to take a lot from it. But it was basically a smart way to resolve this recurring plot line that had been, you know, kind of in the back of every episode since this second half of the season started. It was a very smart way to do it, and it allowed both the discussion of that and the resolution of this plot point to shine together. It's a great episode, and I'm glad that it didn't actually have Casey and her and Lunella's father like trying to figure out the party be an actual B plot. Instead, it just came back at the end and everything with the full moon party, like just being like the closing moments of the episode. I think that was smart, because if they had taken anything away from the plot here, I feel like it wouldn't have worked as well. Like they had a cutaway to Devil getting the ginger and everything, and that entire thing starting, but that was to create the conflict that would eventually cause them to, reconnect. That would cause Adria to see how she had been unfair to Lunella. And despite it being for good reason, and also to see how much like her treatment of this entire thing was hurting her daughter. It was a tool basically. It was absolutely a tool that they used in order to express that. So it served the plot. But I feel like, and again, the party would too. But I'm glad that they didn't focus on that. They just had the one, like, really small, really short scene of just Casey and James Jr. talking about it. And then it cut away and didn't bring it back up until the end. I'm happy about that. Um, like I said in the reaction, this is something I personally can't relate to. And this is something I definitely want to discuss in regards to that, because I've heard a lot of people um, use that exact excuse as a reason to hate on something. Turning Red was actually a very big example of that, because not only did a lot of people say they couldn't relate because they were, like, non-uterine and never had periods or whatnot, but there were a lot of people who said that also to the fact that, Turning Red is focused around a Chinese Canadian um, daughter. Is it daughter or granddaughter of immigrants? Which generation were the immigrants? I'm not 100% sure, but growing up at a certain time and everything. It's like a lot of people were saying, oh, we can't relate to this, so this movie is bad. I hate that argument. It's such a stupid argument. You don't have to relate to everything for something to be good. You don't have to relate to a plot or to, like, traits like that at all for a story to be good. Again, I am a non-uterine individual. I have never gone through a period. It's something I just can't speak on. That's why I was, like, asking in the reaction, all, like, is the pickle juice, is that, like, an actual thing? Because I don't know. I genuinely don't. But I still like to see media that touches on this, because I can understand that there are people who can relate to it and that it is going to be important to them. And I can also understand when something is well written. When something is written and directed and just given great performances with. I understand how good that is. You don't have to be able to relate to every single part of something to like it, to enjoy it, to acknowledge its importance. Having that kind of mindset not only is going to limit it's not only going to limit the amount of media that you'll be able to enjoy in the first place, but it's going to limit your ability to enjoy media at all. Having that mindset, it's like you're going to overanalyze everything, and you're going to be a miserable curmudgeon with no sense of joy in their life, and it's really sad. It's like there's a lot in a lot of different shows I can't relate to. I watch a lot of these cartoons and a lot of these anime where the characters are teenagers and everything. I'm a 33-year-old non-binary trans woman. How the fuck can I relate to that? Like, seriously. I don't. There might be certain things in the series from other characters or other, like, ideas or whatnot that maybe I can relate to a degree. Like when a series touches on queer topics or whatnot, or touches on things from, like, time periods where I was that age or whatever. Sure. But in a lot of cases, like, I'm not the demographic that is supposed to relate to these characters. When I do relate to them, it's on, like, very specific little things. Again, like queer representation, when a character is autistic, stuff like that. When a character has gone through specific things in their lives that I've gone through. But a lot of these characters I'm not going to connect with on a lot of levels. And that's fine. I can still like the character. I can still enjoy the writing enjoy the animation, etc. I mean, I like and it goes for live action too. I like superhero media. Nothing about that's relatable to me. Like most of superhero media is just not relatable to I would say most average people. The only things you could probably relate to are like characters' ideals and motivations and stuff. But like the average person watching is not going to relate to a super soldier war hero or a billionaire playboy philanthropist, etc., etc. No, you're not going to, and you're not going to be able to. And then there's some characters that some people will be able to relate to on some levels. Like you have Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. There's a lot of people who are going to be able to relate to certain aspects of her life with her character, being Palestinian, um, with her Muslim heritage, the kind of lifestyle she's lived through and everything, her family life. There's going to be a lot of people who can relate to that, who can connect to that, but there's going to be a lot of people who can't. I can't connect to all of that. I'm white. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy it. The Miss Marvel series is one of my favorite projects from the MCU. I can't relate to anything like Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel went through. And I love the Captain Marvel and the Marvels movies. It's like you don't have to relate. That argument is just going to hold you back. There is so much with this series. Getting back on topic, I have kind of drifted from the topic there. But coming back to this series, there is so much with this that I can't connect to. Again, I'm white. There's that aspect alone. But like again, I'm also 33 years old, not like a middle schooler like Lunella. I can't connect on that. I can't connect with her being a genius. I am very much not. I can't connect with her heroic attitude. I'm a coward. I won't argue that. I have a hard time finding courage in a lot of situations. There's so much aspects to this that I just can't connect to. But I'm also not trying to. I'm just enjoying what the media is giving to me, what the series is giving. In terms of, again, it's art and animation, it's soundtrack, especially with this series. The voice cast is fantastic. The writing, the direction. That's what I'm watching this for. I'm not watching this to connect with it. If I do find a specific element that I connect with, it's a bonus, if anything. But that's not why I'm watching it. So it's like people who use that excuse to hate on a piece of media are fucking stupid. It is a dumbass excuse that holds no water. And I feel like that's a very important rant to have gone on for an episode like this. For an episode that touches on topics like this that a lot of people won't be able to understand. But again, even though I don't get what Lunella was going through with this, I can still, enjoy the episode and be like normal about it. I don't have to be a fucking weirdo bitching about it just because it's not something I went through as a kid. Like, that's fucking stupid. Anyway, this episode was phenomenal. It was extremely well written. It was a great return to form. And again, it was focused more on the family stuff, more on the character building stuff rather than the hero stuff. But it was a return to form in terms of, in my opinion, the writing and direction and everything that I love about this series. The last couple episodes just weren't doing it for me as much. This one did. And not just because it finally touched on and resolved the issues between Lunella and Adria, but just the way it was written, the way it was directed, the way everything was handled, the paced especially, and even the meaningful like moments in it, like Lunella's tape player getting destroyed and getting replaced with her mother's CD player. There is so much depth and meaning behind that. That's fantastic. This is the kind of stuff I love to see. I think it's great for a number of reasons. And now that we have touched on this stuff and now that we have resolved these issues, we can get back to a lot of the other stuff. We still don't have a finite villain for the end of this series. We don't have any resolution with oh my god, his name is escaping me. You know who I'm talking about. Lawrence Fishburne's character. Why is his name escaping me? I remembered it before. But wow. I can't think of his name. That is like really weird. I could probably just look it up by typing in Lawrence Fishburne Moon Girl. Fishburne Moon Girl. Okay. The Beyonder. I don't know why I had such trouble with that. But we have to touch on the Beyonder, who we did see in episode 15, I believe it was. Apparently he's just floating around in space, I guess. But we have to touch on that. And we have to close out the fucking series. Not just the season, the series in a satisfying way. Like, there's a lot we need to get to. And so it's good that we have resolved this at this point. Because now we can focus on getting that stuff set up. Like, I'm very curious as to how this is going to close out. And I wish it didn't have to. I wish we could have more. But we can only do what we can do. And so I'm hoping for a lot of great stuff here. I would like at least one more episode that really focuses on Casey, by the way, as well. Not just because Casey's my favorite character. But I feel like this season has kind of pushed her a little bit towards the background a little. Like, not completely. She's been there, and she's been, like, you know, supporting Lou and everything. And she's had some great moments, but I feel like she had a bigger role in season 1. And I really want to see her have at least one big episode that focuses on her here. Just one more. That's all I ask. And otherwise, like, having her, again, relegated to being a great support, I'm great with that. But I just want one episode that really focuses on her. It can focus on her and her dad's. It can focus on her and Lunella. It can focus on anything, really. I just want something to touch on that. That's my biggest wish for these episodes going forward. I want one episode, just one. I would be happy with more than one, but at least one that has a focus on her. But we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, tell me your thoughts on this episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.